according to the timing. So the driver's now coming through turn 9 for the very first time. Looks to be, I think that's Tim Gerhard's up front. Jaden Thien looks to be in second position. So drivers coming through turn 10 for the very first time. Tim Gerhard's leads. Jaden Thien, Nick Gerhard's. Then it is Turnschmidt, who rounds out the top 4 as we come across the line to complete lap number 1. So it is Tim Gerhard's that leads. The only driver that isn't competing in this race looks to be Lars-Göran Sorensen. A real shame for the Danish driver, who was due to start on the front row of the grid. As Jaden Thien now coming under very, very quick pressure from Nick Gerhard's for second place. And it's a great move up the inside for turn 6. Thien now gets the cutback offensive. Goes towards the inside line. The pair are side by side heading into turn 7. Who's going to get there first? Oh, that's very close indeed. But Nick Gerhard's, by the skin of his wetsuit, got through there at the nick of time. That's a brilliant job there from the young Dutchman. So it is twin brothers 1 and 2 in just the second lap of this first race of the day. Jaden Thien, I don't think saw it coming, knew that Nick Gerhard's was charging at him, and then all of a sudden he goes, I'm going to take the outside line, I've got more grip here. He used it to his absolute maximum advantage there and got second place. 8 minutes and 39 plus an additional lap left on the clock as it counts down towards the conclusion of the penultimate race of their season. So Jaden Thien now down into second place and is dropping back, as looks like Tim Gerhard's has just got away with it and is running away, quite literally, at full throttle, no less. And if these karts had DRS like in Formula 1, Nick Gerhard's wouldn't have an advantage over his brother, but Jaden Thien would definitely be in the DRS zone. However, there's no aerodynamics on these karts apart from what you see with the front fairings, the front Nassau plate, and the 2 side pods. That's all they have to work with. It's about training racecraft, driver skill, and how they can compose themselves whilst competing with fellow competitors. But Tim Gerhard's just takes the casual glance of a lifetime going over his left shoulder to see where brother Nick is at the moment. And the gap was 2.1 seconds exactly. Jaden Thien dropping a little bit further back from Nick Gerhard's in third position. Turnschmidt, Enzo Bol, Jens van der Eyden and Jasper Leenerts ran out the top 7. And that's all we have competing in this race, obviously with Lars-Göran Sorensen not making the start. Gap now between first and second has increased to just over 2.35 seconds. And you can just, for those watching at home on the stream, you can just see how much input Tim Gerhard's is putting in to trying to correct the kart. Because once they put the throttle down, the rear wheels in the wet conditions, even though these are grooved tyres, grooved wet tyres, they will have, you know, even the wet tyres don't have 100% coverage on the wet asphalt that we have here at Karting Genk. And there'll be varying different lines. You can just see how much Tim Gerhard's is actually putting in to this. And he's wrestling with the kart at times, going into the final corner. The back end started to twitch a little bit there, and he had to correct. And sometimes you can correct correctly, or you can sometimes overcorrect, and it can probably put the back end out of the kart a different way. But nevertheless, he is keeping up the pace. He is running the 1 minute 12.3s. Brother Nick just did a 1 minute 12.8. Jaden Thien's just put in his best lap of the race, a 1 minute 13.456. And Turnschmidt running in the 1:14.6s at the minute. And Enzo Bol trying to close the gap. Is about 0.6 of a second adrift from what is 4th place on the road. And we've just had a time second penalty given, and that is to Enzo Bol. 3 second time penalty, 2 wheels off of the track. So that's going to put him down That's actually going to put him down into 6th place as a result of that. So he's got 3 seconds to make up and also get past at least one driver, which will be Turnschmidt, and make a little bit of headway there. So around about 2.4 seconds ahead. But that's going to be difficult in these wet weather conditions. We've got 5 minutes remaining of this penultimate race of the 2019 BNL Karting Series Minimax season. And Tim Gerhards gets on with the job at hand, just blinkers on, looking forward, and has extended the gap over brother Nick to 3.3 seconds. That's 3.353. Jaden Thien is a further 2.6 seconds. No, yeah, 2.6 seconds adrift. Enzo Boll has got past Turnschmidt. So now has to make up a significant amount of distance and pull away from Turnschmidt. So if at the end of the race, if he is over 3 seconds ahead of Turnschmidt, he keeps 4th position. So it was deemed by race controllers. So drivers' track limits are even very well policed with the state-of-the-art race control system that we have here. 20 plus cameras at multiple points on the circuit here. So we come into the last 4 minutes of this race, plus an additional lap. And sometimes with wet weather conditions, you don't know by keeping on the racing line if that's going to be the best line of attack in getting your laps as quick as possible, or whether you go towards the outside, where there is more, because depending on where the water is being brushed aside by the grooves on these wet weather tyres, can also depend on surface temperature. So they're taking a wider line. It's meaning that they're trying to keep the longevity into the tyres. And so when the water hits the rubber, it cools it down. Basically chemistry 101. So if it's a dry line, wet weather tyres will literally start to burn up as we've got more battling happening here. And one of them looks to be Turnschmidt there. And who is ahead of Jens van der Eyden. So Enzo Boll is only 0.7 of a second ahead of the number 166, and he could fast be, he's got about 3 minutes to make up quite a bit of distance on the two behind him, but they are not wanting to relinquish any track position. They want to go forwards rather than backwards in terms of distance between drivers. But at the moment, Tim Gerhards comes round towards the final corner to complete lap number 7 here. And he's been setting the timesheets ablaze as Tim Gerhards. 1 minute 12.259. He's just been in a 1 minute 12.655, so he's consistently running in the low to the mid 1 minute 12s. The only other driver that's managed to get close to within 4/10 of that is brother Nick, whose best effort so far is a 1 minute 12.631. But Enzo Boll now starting to open up that gap between himself and Turnschmidt. Must have heard me on the commentary there, I think. Just to pad a general announcement, could the owner of a white Mercedes, registration Z for zebra, K for kilo, dash 256, X for X-ray, looks like that the back door is open on the vehicle, so if you could make sure you return to your vehicle as soon as possible. So that's ZK-256X. Please go back to your vehicle as soon as possible. Looks like you've left the back door open, one of the back doors open. As we go into the last 70 seconds of this race, the gap between the two twin brothers, Tim and Nick Gerhards, is now expanded to 4.847 seconds. Jaden Thien is fast dropping away. Championship hopes pretty much, I think, have been extinguished now for the 107 from the Netherlands. Enzo Boll now has a gap of 2 seconds between himself and Turnschmidt. So we'll have to try and find a half a second a lap in the next 2 laps as we are fast approaching the conclusion of the timer counting down here in this race. So 30 seconds on the clock. Tim Gerhards gets the rear end a little bit sideways going into the approach under braking towards turn 10. Excuse me. So we've got 14 on the clock left to go. He'll cross the line just before, I think, the timer expires. And that is with 6 seconds to go, so it'll be this plus an additional lap. And this is where I think we can make a very definitive declaration here, because this driver now, Tim Gerhardt, has been nothing short of exemplary this year. He's had his ups and downs, he's had his trials and tribulations, but he's just making it look effortlessly out there on the wet surface here at Karting Genk. Gap between him and his twin brother Nick now 5.425 seconds. Enzo Boll now has a gap between himself and Turnschmidt of nearly 2.3 seconds. So he's got a couple of laps to make up another 7 or so tenths. And it's been a pleasure commentating on this particular class as well. I've seen quite a few drivers through the BNL karting series over the course of this past season. And I can provisionally say now that for 2019, the guy that's going to be on the top of the championship podium, who now takes the checkered flag, is the number 50 from the Netherlands, Tim Gerhardt. I think he now knows he wants to get the job done later on this afternoon, and there's a nice little signal there from twin brother Nick. But Tim Gerhardt, I think provisionally speaking, is your champion in the Minimax category for 2019 in the BNL karting series, taking the crown from a guy who is here this weekend, Tom Breken. But look at that nice little sportsmanship gesture between the two twin brothers, side by side, brothers in arms, and joined by blood. But Tim Gerhardt has been absolutely exemplary, and that is his 9th win of the season. And there's one more race to go. But Tim Gerhardt, I think, knows that it is done. The job has been completed. Because we have 6 champions to crown, and I think, we provisionally speaking, there could be a little bit of a cheer in the paddock as Tim Gerhardt makes his way back to the pits. But Tim Gerhardt takes the win from brother Nick by 6 seconds. Jaden Thien in 3rd position. Enzo Boll still, well, I think just keeps 4th place. Turnschmidt in 5th. Jens van der Eyden in 6th. And Jasper Leenerts in 7th, with Lars-Ron Sorensen not completing the race. But it looks like Tim Gerhardt is your 2019 BNL Karting Series season Mini Max champion.